How about you, Eric? Would you like to give me a poem? Oh no, it's really cool. It's showing me when you guys are not looking at the app. This is so neat.
It's
Oh,
creepy.
Oh yeah, now you're looking at
creepy.
it. Oh,
Oh,
oh
geez.
yeah.
Big
So it's
brother.
Oh yeah, I got to make sure you guys are focused. Welcome to the Geeky A Go Go podcast, a weekly podcast where we talk about news, movies, TV shows, comic books, cosplay. If it has something to do with what's going on in the world of pop culture, we'll talk about it here. My name is Anthony Pizzuto. Let's get this party started. Joining me today in the GoCo is the guy who likes Disney more than his own children, Mr. Tim Boylan, the protector of flight paths in New Jersey, Chris M., and the guy who has more costumes than credit card points, Mr. Eric Ho. Boys, what's going on? Tim, welcome back from vacation. How was it?
Oh, thank you. It was good. I did go to Disney.
Do you have like a timeshare down there? I know you have a season pass or whatever, the lifetime pass,
Annual
annual
pass.
pass. I can't get that right. I don't know why. Do you have a timeshare?
No, the annual pass kind of does the job.
Oh, really? So the annual pass gets you a hotel room?
No, it doesn't. You can be a DVC member, which is Disney Vacation Club.
Okay.
That gets you, the room, but it's a little bit more of a financial commitment to buy that.
Okay, and who's your favorite Disney character down there?
Funny, as a kid, I loved Pinocchio, so that's probably my favorite Disney character.
Pinocchio. It's the nose, isn't it?
It is.
All right. Well, welcome back, Tim. We missed you. We didn't talk too much smack about you while you were gone. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm still stuck on the Pinocchio comment.
Does that surprise you? Were you expecting a different character, or is this just like, who says Pinocchio?
Yeah, I mean, usually when people say favorite Disney character, I'm thinking Mickey, Minnie,
Not Pinocchio.
not Pinocchio. So that was a pretty neat answer, Tim.
Thank you. I think I wore that VHS tape out when I was a kid.
So, Eric, who's your favorite Disney character? Obviously, it's not Pinocchio.
I feel like now that we're going down this, that I will consider to be movie. I mean, I like Lion King as a character. I like Mufasa. I like Simba.
Okay.
Do they show up in the park? Are there Lion King characters in the park? Tim is shaking his head.
Well, they do have the Kilimanjaro Safari, so it's actual animals. So you can see lions. It's not necessarily Simba or Mufasa, but they are lions. I don't know if you want to go pet them.
So they didn't name their own lions Simba and Mufasa?
They might have names for them, but when you go on the safari, the tour guide will drive you around the area and he'll show you. It looks kind of like Pride Rock, right? He's never mentioned, or at least I've never paid attention to hear, but I've never heard them call them by any special names.
Got it. Good to know. So no Simba and Mufasa in the Magic Kingdom.
But yeah, to really answer the question, I didn't do much this week. It's being a busy week. It's being a busy week at work, so nothing exciting to report.
Got it.
What about you, Anthony?
Well, let's see. What have I been up to this week? I feel like we're just coming out of. Where are we? Has this been a full week yet? Yeah, it was a full week. It was a busy week. Oh, you know what? Last week it was teacher conferences, so my entire school district was half days all week. I'm pretty convinced that my school district, at least for the months of November and December, have like 3 full days of school in those 2 months. It's wild. So my midday is spent picking up the children and bringing them here, and then spending the rest of the afternoon working and feeling guilty that my kids are watching Netflix for 4 hours straight. Don't judge me. We all have to do what we have to do to be a parent. Chris, what's going on this week for you?
Wrapping up on Christmas decorating. So a little bit behind because we usually try to get that done first weekend in December.
But we've had terrible weather this weekend, so we couldn't really jump outside and do stuff.
Yeah, it was a bummer today. It was just rain, rain, rain. December 3rd in New Jersey. All the rain that we could possibly get. Very sad, very boring.
60 degrees though yesterday.
Nice. Chris, since we've all had to do it, who's your favorite Disney character?
Favorite Disney in all of Disney?
Yeah, but let's keep it like real Disney, not like Marvel Disney or Pixar Disney or Star Wars Disney. Let's go like classic Disney, because we had Lion King, we had Pinocchio. Who do you gravitate towards?
I mean, I have to go with the strongest hero of all time, Hercules.
Hercules.
So what's the word? Stereotypical? You're welcome.
The Greek going for the Greek. We should have known. I have no idea who mine would be. I'm a Lion King guy. I love the Lion King, but I love Scar. I always go for the bad guys. Ursula, Scar, Hades. Like, there's some good Disney villains out there. Hades, voiced by James Woods, former American treasure James Woods. Now he's kind of a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, James Woods. But back in the day, he was pretty awesome. And he did a great job as everyone's favorite Greek villain, Mr. Hades himself. So I will choose Hades as my favorite Disney character. Final answer. Hey, Chris, do you know what time it is?
It's Watcha Watchin time.
Woo-woo!
Let's start this week off with Tim, since he wasn't here last week.
Yeah, I have been watching some more YouTube recently, and there's this one guy who I found. His name is, it's called Beard Meets Food. I don't know if you guys ever seen this guy.
That sounds
No?
gross.
Yeah.
I've met food and I've met beer. I've never met.
No, beard. It's beard,
Beard.
not beer. Beard, like a beer.
Please tell me it's not a guy just like dropping stuff into his beard and he reviews what's remaining in his beard. Because that'd be
no. He's
saving
this
food for later.
He's this English guy, and he has an epic beard. Chris has got an epic beard, but this guy's beard is way more epic. It's probably at least 12 inches long, and he does these food challenges, and some of them are pretty insane. I think he eats maybe 6 or 8 pounds of food in 15 minutes. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
But he's entertaining. He's very entertaining.
Okay, we will leave a link to that in the show notes. I am very curious to see the beard meeting food. It's actually, so it's interesting you mentioned the beard thing and the epic beards. I was watching, this isn't my Watcha Watchin, but I am jumping in, the show called Face Off on Netflix. They do like all the special makeup effects. And one of the episodes was they had to do something about with a beard and do something creative with beard art. And the guy who was kind of like the guest judge is the president of the Los Angeles Beer Club or something like that. And they literally, it's just a bunch of guys who grow their beards and manicure it and it's weird stuff. It's weird beard stuff. Sorry. Anyway, who's next, Chris?
Let's take it over to Eric.
I'll share what I'm watching.
What are you watching?
But before I get to what I'm watching, I used to eat competitively. And so too, this is before the days of YouTube and 2 t-shirt sizes ago.
Oh, wow.
So I do continue to follow YouTube channels like the ones that Tim has pointed out.
So are you familiar with the work of A Beard Meets Food?
I would love to meet the guy. I mean, I've seen his videos.
Got it.
Anyway, that's another episode. But what I have been watching lately, I've been telling folks that I've been watching the Great British Bake Off. So the finale happened, so we watched that, and then also on Netflix, they've been doing a Squid Games real life Squid Game situation. So we've been catching up on those. Um, Surprisingly dramatic. I thought this was gonna be the silliest thing in the world, but turns out pretty cool the way they've edited it. So thumbs up. Taking a look if you take a look if you've watched the show. Cool to see that coming to real life. No one died, as far as I'm concerned, for the show.
And anybody get
Nice.
maimed? Or is that a spoiler? Do we just have to go watch it?
I am
You're
unsure.
Okay.
I hear there were some lawsuits after the show.
Ooh.
But I doubt anything serious happened. It doesn't look all that crazy.
I think it ties. I think it ties a little bit back to our previous episode on SAG. Reality stars wanting to be compensated, for competing. I think we touched on that a little bit. In reality shows, yes, they're not actors in this, but they're still talent. So they put their. You're signing up for it. So I don't know how. Eric said it. Consent, right? You consented to be recorded and performing whatever you want to call it, participating in a contest. I don't know how much legs you have to stand on. Maybe if it was misrepresented, whatever. Good luck to them if they're filing lawsuits. But you kind of you knew what you're signing up. Everyone has watched the show. I shouldn't say everyone, but most people have watched the show. They know what they're getting themselves into when they perform in these reality shows. So yeah, that's very interesting. See how that plays out. I'll kick it off to myself. Watcha Watchin. I finished Encounters, that I was talking about last week with aliens and whatnot, and actually watching it changed my perspective a little bit. I have a little bit of a newfound understanding of what people are going through when they're encountering their encounters. I do recommend the show. It was a little eye opening for me. So yeah, I highly recommend that. I finished that, and I started watching this show called Obliterated on Netflix. I'm only like 10-15 minutes into the first show, and I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. I normally do finish everything I start watching, but I'd have to give it the full episode to really say anything about it. There's only one show in the history of my binge watching of shows online that I've actually just stopped watching. So I'll probably get through it, but I can't recommend anything either way right
And
now.
Obliterated in a nutshell is.
I
really?
couldn't even tell you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts off with it looks like a spy op, or like a some kind of, like, they're trying to intercept a tactical nuke kind of team, and they're trying to intercept it during a buy. So a bad guy is trying to sell a weapons package to another bad guy, and this team is trying to get the package, and then the handoff gets screwed up, and the package gets. So I'm only 10 minutes into the show, and all of this happens in that 10-15 minute span. So I guess I don't. I have no idea. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't watch trailers. I just literally add things to queues and see what happens.
You're gonna have to let us know next week your full assessment.
Yep. Definitely let you guys know. And to wrap it up, let's hand it back to AP.
I'm on a horror movie kick right now. I feel like so one dimensional. All I watch is horror, but it's the season, so I had to dig up Silent Night, Deadly Night, classic 1984, 85 slasher, pure 80s slasher film. It is hysterical. It is bloody as heck. I'd forgotten so many things about this movie. Like when the killer goes and kills people, he's dressed as Santa Claus, and he goes and kills people, and he's like, naughty. Naughty. That's like all he said. That's his line. That's his killer line. And it's no wonder that he didn't ascend the throne of horror villain greatness, because when you're following in the footsteps of Freddy Krueger, who's one of the most witty characters, or Pinhead, who's one of the a Shakespearean devil's priest, and then you have naughty. It's like, it's awful. I highly recommend you give it a watch. You can stream it on YouTube. There's like 5 of them that they ended up producing. I have yet to kind of dive into the canon. And then the other night we watched this film. It's a Norwegian horror film called Good Boy, and it's borderline dark comedy, but like dark comedy in the vein of like Funny Games / Perfect Host, if you guys know those films. Pretty much the premise is super rich bachelor is dating on Tinder. He brings a girl home, and he introduces her to his dog, who is literally a guy dressed up in a dog suit. And yeah, it's real. And the dog suit is really creepy. But it's this guy, and he plays it off as the guy has some emotional disturbances, and he is the caretaker of this person who has decided to dress like a dog. And hilarity ensues. Check it out. It's very dark. I think it was on Amazon Prime, but you had to rent it. But it was a good movie. I find that the foreign horror films are far better these days than the domestic horror films, and there's just so much great thriller horror content out there from our international friends. All right, so we're going to skip the news this week because the biggest headline was Beyonce's concert movie, and I don't think any of us know enough about that to cover it. So let's dive into our review of Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One premiered in the United States on December 1st, and in a nutshell, Japan is already devastated by the war when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster. That's not my amazing writing, that's pulled directly from the press kit. This film was written, directed, and even had its visual effects produced by Takashi Yamazaki, who was tapped for this film after writing and directing 2019's The Great War of Archimedes, a fictionalized telling of the building of the battleship Yamato. The film, in essence, takes us back to our roots with the franchise, almost feeling more like a modern remake of the original 1954 film. And for those of you obsessed with things like canon, well, this isn't part of the official Monsterverse. However, in good horror sci-fi form, there is a small glimmer of a potential sequel. But what did you expect? It's a horror film. There's probably going to be 12 of these films. The film takes place at the end of World War II and starts with our protagonist landing his plane on Odo Island when the garrison is attacked by our favorite city-smashing monster. He freezes up at the opportunity to possibly take Godzilla down by firing his plane's weapons, causing the entire garrison to be obliterated, sans our hero. Fast forward several years later, where he is rebuilding his life in a war-devastated Tokyo, when Godzilla comes to the mainland. And as you can imagine, it is bad news bears for everyone in Godzilla's path. Chris and Eric, you two are big fans of the kaiju films and Godzilla in general. So what did you two think of this film? Did it live up to your expectations? Chris, let's start with you.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was definitely a very good telling of the Godzilla films, or Godzilla himself, and reintroduction to a newer culture, a newer generation, I should say. I thought it was done fantastically. Not the most visually stunning in terms of creature effects and whatnot out of all the Godzilla films, but definitely very high up there on messaging and meaning and impact on culture and whatnot. I loved it. I can't speak more highly of it than I already have.
And to that point, so the budget for this was $15 million, which is a shocking amount, a shockingly low amount of money for the amount of booms and bangs and creature effects that you did get in the film, which is really interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, the director and writer also did the visual effects. So it's a DIY. Scrappy type of production, which is really cool as well. I don't know if you can classify it as an indie, but it has that kind of indie feel when it's so kind of self-contained. Eric, you're a big kaiju fan as well, Mr. Godzilla. What did you think?
Yeah, we talked about this a little earlier before around how the difference between American Godzilla and Japanese Godzilla. and I think we saw it full on display in this movie. Like Chris mentioned, there's just so much more around, I think, critique on government, society, and then there's a lot around. There's a nice redemption arc, I want to say, um, and it taps a lot more into the psyche, I think, of the society at that time that they tried to bring you back to. And then I just loved it. I liked it. It didn't feel like a low budget film to me, right? I think it was one of those things where I went in specifically expecting something like this, where like the Japanese films use a lot of these almost like miniature and all these kind of things that are happening. There's all these effects and beyond the monster, like Godzilla, while a main character, I think we're really trying to see human and people kind of evolve and how they react to an existential threat like that to their society. So I really enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed, I think, these uh, these versions of Godzilla where they're trying to kind of maybe have some meanings behind it. Yeah, I really really enjoyed it.
Yes, Chris.
So adding to that, and you kind of touched on a little bit introduction. Um, what I got out of it, right? It starts in the title, right? Godzilla Minus One. When everyone heard the title, they didn't really know, is this a resetting of the franchise? Is this, because everyone saw the stills and it was like you could tell it was in, either post-war or same time period Japan, when the original film took place, and so the Godzilla Minus One is basically Japan. Uh, the initial post-war, having the bomb dropped on it, and trying to rebuild itself, gets attacked by Godzilla. So it's literally they're already down and out. They're starting at zero, and then Godzilla shows up and literally, almost theoretically, like drops another nuke on them and destroys the city again with one breath of atomic breath, and it sets them backwards, right? So that's where we get the minus one, and the telling of the story, and for me, what hit most was the veterans of the war. They're trying to put their country in a better place. They even say in the film at one point, we're doing this, so you don't have to do what we did. We want you to start on our shoulders and go forward. Um, that's what really hit home for me.
Now, Tim, you were in Disneyland munching on turkey legs and funnel cake and getting your picture taken with Minnie. So we didn't get to hear your favorite Godzilla monster, your favorite kaiju, or anything like that. So curious, you joined us at the theater today. What did you think of the film, and how does it stack up with your expectations from your own interest in the Godzilla series?
So I will definitely say I am not as much of a kaiju fan or Godzilla fan as I think Eric or Chris are, which, we can't all be perfect, but
Boo.
I will say that I think that, well, the last time I did see a Godzilla film was in 1998, and I think that was a pretty terrible film when it comes to Godzilla. But
Just admit that you were scared. It's fine.
right. This film, it was as emotionally involving as it was, kind of scary to me. And, being a World War II kind of buff, right, I did appreciate all of the World War II undertones. And I think Godzilla, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a metaphor for kind of nuclear weapons. So I did all appreciate all that stuff, and to echo kind of Chris's comments and even Eric's comments, right? That there was a fantastic story arc in the movie, from the whole redemption perspective, and I really enjoyed it. I would definitely go back for more Godzilla. Godzilla, maybe Godzilla plus one, plus two, whatever they're gonna.
It's not dinner reservations, okay?
For him, it is.
Oh, well played, Tim. Well played. I thoroughly enjoyed the film too, and I am definitely not as hardcore or into it as Nitro and Eric. And I think what I liked about it, I agree with you, Eric. It wasn't a low budget vibes, but I got this almost like art house type of vibe to it. Um, it felt to me it was a movie about a man battling his demons. It was a movie about guilt. It was, and it was a movie about how do you overcome that guilt. And on the surface, the director obviously and the writers brought it together as Godzilla is the manifestation of that guilt. And I felt like we were talking about this as we left the theater, and I'm sure we can look it up, but there's not a huge amount of action in the film. It's a 2 hour and 4 minute film, and I would say maybe 10% of it is what you would expect from like when you look at the any of the more recent Godzilla films, it's probably 60-70% of it is action. Like the last I think it was Godzilla v X Kong, not Kong. Oh no, the one that just came out a couple years ago. Like I feel like that entire movie is just an adrenaline rush. But this one it was slow paced but thoughtful. And again, it's about this guy on his journey of coping with the guilt of the things that he did that got him to where he was. And then Godzilla is his redemption. And so that's kind of where I get this art housey feel to it. It's not your typical Hollywood smash and bash, kaiju film. It's very thoughtful. And that's what I liked about it. Chris, you brought a guest to the movie, your daughter. What does she think of it? What's her perspective of something like this?
She liked it a lot, actually. I've been trying to, get her into more and more fandoms and whatnot. Just widen her what she enjoys. And it was a little bit of a risk because I wasn't sure she was going to be into, the film. The whole film is in Japanese with American sub or English subtitles. So I didn't know if she's gonna lose attention or whatever, but she was engaged. She read the whole thing. The first thing I asked her was like, "Could you keep up?" Like, and she's like, "Yep, I understood the whole film. I understood what's going on." I asked her what her favorite part was, and I forgot exactly what she said. So that's an IOU for you guys. But it was something that was like, it wasn't like, oh, I enjoyed seeing like Godzilla or something like that. It was something more thoughtful. Like she liked when, that like the family was reunited, something like that. She said like, that she really enjoyed, like it was a feel good moment. And so I was like, okay, good. Now she understands, what the original Godzilla film meant to me. um, there's more it's not just smash 'em up monster, bashing and all that stuff. There's a story behind it, and there's a protagonist in it, and there's the hero's journey and all that. So she liked it. I'm happy that she liked it, and I'm happy she's more open to re-exploring the original films, even though they're in black and white and whatnot. Because you know how kids are. They're like, oh, it's black and white, it's ancient, and I don't want to watch any of that. But I'm glad she's willing to now.
That's great. And just some kind of business end side of it. So this was opening weekend here in the U.S., and according to Box Office Mojo, as of today, they are at domestically 11 million in box office, which is great, and it's the number 3 movie right now in the country, following Beyonce, of course, who's at number 1 with 21 million, and then the Hunger Games prequel. I believe it's a prequel. So not bad. I mean, obviously, there's not a lot of competition right now uh, spread out. But 11 million at the domestic box office in 2,500 theaters is pretty great. And it's done 23 internationally. So that brings you to 34 million worldwide. They made their money back and then some. So hopefully we see more in this new series. Do you so it's already been said that this is not tied into the MonsterVerse. This is not a prequel to the Monarch series. Any heartache about that? Does that bum you out? Do you wish there was a one big timeline that connects our Japanese Godzilla to our American Godzilla? No, shaking heads. No. Okay, all right.
I feel like they should be separate and distinct. We talked about a little bit in the previous episode that we recorded. It's just a different type of kaiju film, right? It's not the Michael Bay, $1 million blockbuster. We just want to see special effects and sound and graphics and this and that and the other thing. This is, I don't want to say this because I'm a moviegoer. I like going to the film, but I was like, this is not something that you need to see in the big screen. Um, I highly recommend people going to see it in the big screen because I love that type of thing. And yes, there are special effects and graphics and all that stuff, but it's not to that effect. You're not expecting the summer blockbuster kind of thing.
I think just not being, well, having seen a kaiju style film or kaiju film for the first time, maybe I've seen other ones, I just don't know that they're kaiju, but this does inspire me for not being a really big fan to go and see other films kind of like this, other kaiju films. So to anybody who's listening who has not seen this or hasn't even gotten into the franchise or these types of films, being a noob, I highly recommend going and checking out other variations of films like this.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. So, Eric, how many thumbs up do you give this?
What's the total thumbs up count?
Let's
2?
do. Okay, we each get 2 thumbs, and then we'll add them all up, and that will be our Geeky a Go Go score.
I give it both my thumbs.
Very nice, Chris.
2 shiny disco balls.
It's funny. I was thinking about 2 disco balls, and I was like, do we really want to be the channel that gives out 2 balls? I don't know.
Shiny disco balls. Okay.
Tim, what about you?
Also 2 shiny disco balls.
All right. Well, I also give it 2 shiny disco balls. So that gives us a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 shiny disco balls. Well, 6 disco balls and 2 thumbs. Sorry, Eric. I sent you off on the wrong foot. We liked it.
I hate you guys. Just so you guys know, where it's sitting in terms of Rotten Tomatoes at this moment. It is looking at 97% fresh with 98% audience response. And just to rattle off a few other movies on here, Beyonce film is at 100 right now. Taylor Swift is at 99.98.
Wow.
And just looking at the top rows of movies that people will pay attention to, it seems like Die Hard's back in theater and it's sitting at 94%. So doing that out.
Well, we are going to talk about holiday movies in one of our upcoming, maybe next week's episode. So I'm sure Die Hard will make an appearance from one of you knuckleheads. So, all right. Final thoughts on Godzilla.
Highly recommend. Go see it.
Go see it. We gave it our 8 shiny balls. All right. And that wraps up our review of Godzilla. All right, folks. We're going to come to the end of our episode. But before we do that, what are you all looking forward to this week? It's Sunday night. We're recording right now. We're going to meet up again. Well, we'll probably have lunch on Friday, and then we'll record again on Sunday. But what are y'all looking forward to this week?
This specific week, I'm not really looking forward to getting back into that Netflix show, but I'm gonna. Something I'm excited about was the Fallout trailer drop.
Oh.
I was a huge fan of the game, the original game. I don't think I played any subsequent games, which is bad of me to be that much of a fan. But I really liked the original game, and I saw the trailer, and I was very excited. Walter Goggins, great actor, in my opinion.
What about you, Tim?
Yes, I do agree with Chris. I did play all the Fallout games on PlayStation, so I was super excited to see that. So very excited for that one.
Very cool. Mr. Eric?
I don't have much that I've been reading a lot, and so I've been trying to catch up on some books, so not so much movies or whatever to look forward to. I'm also close to finishing doing a first run through of Super Mario Wonders. So looking forward to finishing that this
Very
week.
nice. What book are you reading right now?
I am reading a old Star Wars book about zombies.
Oh,
Yeah, so
is it the Han Solo
given
Death Troopers one? Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Um it's a you know, zombies are making a comeback in the Star Wars universe, and I just thought it was really nice to kind of go back to read some of the original books that might have inspired some of these zombie troopers. So that's what I've been reading. I'm going down this whole reading expanded universe / legends books from Star Wars. I just going through a period right now where I'm doing that.
that's awesome. I actually got that book for Reddit Secret Santa a few years ago. I miss Reddit Secret Santa. They've started doing one kind of off Reddit, which I want to experiment with maybe next year. But yeah, that's a fun read. Yeah, I'm trying to read more too. I just finished this book called Hide, which is about it's almost like a hide and seek in this abandoned amusement park, and it's positioned as like a reality TV show pilot, but in essence it's actually not. They're being hunted, and it's all right. It was an interesting premise, but then I lost interest about halfway through, so I kind of sped read through the rest of it. And now I've just downloaded Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig, who also writes really good thrillers and horror novels, if you haven't checked out some of his non-Star Wars stuff. But this week, I am excited about, well, starting that book. I am still playing Final Fantasy 16, which is like the longest movie ever. I'm partially regretting picking it up because it's just not, it's more story and not enough action, even on the highest difficulty. And I'm kind of like losing interest in it, but I've committed to it, so I'm going to try to finish it in my spare time. And then I'm just looking forward to hopefully having lunch with you guys on Friday and recording our next episode on Sunday. All right. Well, that's all we have this week. So make sure you are following us everywhere at Geeky A Go Go. A big shout out to Chris, Eric, and Tim for their perspective on our favorite city smashing monster, Mr. Godzilla, and their geeky brains as always. And thank you, listener. Thank you so much for listening to our show. Make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast on your favorite platform. And until next time, you stay geeky, Internet.
Bye.
Thank you.